Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates from Technical Beings.
Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we will see what is boot process. It is important to understand the Linux boot process to troubleshoot boot problems. These are the high level steps in the boot process. You need to be aware of files involved in the boot process because errors in these files can cause boot problems. If there is an issue during boot, you need to identify in which phase of boot process the issue lies so that you can take appropriate action to fix the issue. RHEL goes through the boot process when the system is powered up or reset. So with the boot process lasting until all enabled services are started and a login prompt appears on the screen. So that is the entire journey of a boot process. So we will see a diagram that shows the high level stages of a typical Linux boot process. So if you look at this diagram, you will get an entire picture of boot process which has 5 stages. The first one is BIOS, second is MBR, grub2, kernel and systemd. In the further slides, we will learn about each and every stage. First, coming to BIOS. What is BIOS? BIOS is basic input output system. When your power or your system, it will read all the device settings and execute the post. What is post? Post is nothing but powered on self-test process to recognize the hardware devices. BIOS stand for basic input output system. Perform some system integrity checks. And what type of checks? It will search, loads and execute the bootloader program. It looks for bootloader in floppy CD-ROMs or hard drive. You can press a key, typically F12 or F2, but it depends on your system. During the BIOS startup to change the boot sequence. Once the bootloader program is detected and loaded into the memory, then what happens is BIOS gives the control to it. So in simple terms, BIOS loads and then execute the MBR bootloader. Now coming to MBR, MBR is nothing but master boot record, which is placed in the first sector of Linux boot hard drive. And this information preloads into ROM, that is read-only memory, by BIOS. MBR is the first 512 bytes of the boot drive that is read into memory. So the next 64 bytes contain the partition table for the disk. The last 2 bytes are called as the magic number, which is used for error detection. MBR discovers the bootable device and loads the grub2 bootloader into memory and transfers control over it. So if you see into this picture, out of 512 bytes, 446 bytes are occupied by the bootloader and 64 bytes are given to the partition table, and it is important that the partition table has an active partition which is also called as a healthy partition. And regarding this magic number has 2 options, that is yes or no. It will verify the devices whether if everything is fine, then it will give a yes. If something is wrong, then it will give a no. So this is how magic number is used. So 512 bytes are divided into these 3 parts. So this is what you have to remember. So MBR discovers the bootable device and loads the grub2 bootloader. And now the control is to grub2. grub2, what is grub2? grub2 is nothing but Grand Unified Bootloader. The default bootloader program used on RHEL 7 is grub2. You just have to keep in mind that the boot process that we are looking into right now is of RHEL 7 or CentOS 7, because in RHEL 6 the boot process was slightly different. So just to make a note of it, that this boot process is about RHEL 7. So grub stands for Grand Unified Bootloader. grub2 replaces the older grub bootloader, also called as legacy grub. The grub2 configuration file is located at boot grub2 grub.cfg. You should never edit this file directly. grub2 menu configuration settings are taken from etc default grub when generating grub.cfg. So here you can see the sample for etc default grub file, which has all these options, that is grub timeout, distributor, default, disable submenu, terminal outputs, cmd line, command line Linux, disable recovery. So now after grub unified bootloader, if changes are made to any of these parameters, you need to run grub2 make config to regenerate the boot grub2 grub.cfg file. grub2 searches. What grub2 does? The work of grub2 is it searches the compressed kernel image file, also called as VM Linux, in the boot directory. grub2 loads the VM Linux kernel file to memory and extracts the contents of initramfs image file into a temporary memory based file system, that is tmpfs. The initial RAM disk initrd, it is also called as initrd, is an initial root file system that is mounted before the real root file system. The job of the initial RAM file system is to preload the block device modules such as IDE, SCSI or RAID, so that the root file system on which those modules normally reside can then be accessed and mounted. The initramfs is bound to the kernel and the kernel mounts this initramfs as part of a two-stage boot process. Then what happens? The Dracut utility creates initramfs whenever a new kernel is installed. Use the initrd command to view the, that is ls initrd, to view the content of image created by Dracut. So in simple term, grub2 loads and execute kernel and initramfs images. So now coming to kernel stage, the kernel start the systemd process with the process ID 1. So you have to note this, the first process that starts when a boot process takes place is systemd, and by default the first process, that is PID, is 1 to that process, and below command will help you to find the systemd process ID, that is ps-ef grep systemd. It also loads the necessary driver modules from initrd image. The bootloader, that is grub2, may present a boot menu to the user or can be configured to automatically start a default operating system. To load Linux, the kernel is loaded together with the initramfs. The initramfs contains, what does it contains? Initramfs contains kernel modules. So these all things you have to remember. Modules for all hardware that is required to boot, as well as the initial scripts required to proceed to the next stage of booting. So on RHEL 7, the initramfs contains a complete operational system which may be used for troubleshooting purposes. While system starting, kernel loads all the necessary kernel modules and drives from initrd.image to load system first process, that is systemd in Linux. So coming to the systemd stage, the kernel starts the systemd process with the process ID that we've already seen. Systemd is the first process that starts after the system boots and is the final process that is running when the system shuts down. It controls the final stages of booting and prepares the system for use. It also speeds up booting up by loading service concurrently. Systemd reads the file linked by etc systemd system default.target. For example, usr lib systemd system multi-user.target. Multi-user.target is nothing but the run level which was called in 6 RHEL 6, here it is called as multi-user, which will give you a graphical user interface, so or whatever the target that is set. System D will bring the system into that position. The system target file defines the service that system D starts. System D allows you to manage various types of units on a system, including services, name.service, and targets, name.target, devices, name.device, file system mount points, name.mount, and sockets, name.sockets. So that we have completed the 5 stages. Just have a look at the summary. The following steps summarize how the boot procedure happens in RHEL 7 CentOS 7. The computer's BIOS performs post, that is power on self test. Then BIOS reads the MBR for bootloader. Then grub2 bootloader loads the VM Linux kernel image. grub2 then extracts the content of the initramfs image. The kernel then loads the driver module from initramfs, and kernel starts the system first process, that is system D, and once the system D process is started, it takes over it and read configuration file from system D. Read file linked to etc systemd default.target brings the system to state defined by system.target, that is whatever target is defined, if it's a command line or a graphical user interface, and then it gives you the screen to log in. So this is how the boot process takes place. Whenever we log in into a system, we have never ever thought that this procedure is such a long that is running in the background, which takes almost 10 seconds to, it takes only 10 seconds for us to see the screen, but all these things are running behind in the background, which being a system administrator we should be aware of. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any new updates, because your support will motivate me to make more videos, and I'll be coming up with these type of videos every day, so stay tuned. See you next time. Till then, take care and bye bye.